every piece has a name, Mary, and yours isn't on any of them.
The dining room table was a battlefield of porcelain, each piece tagged like a territory already won. A teacup for Claire, a gravy boat for Michael, a hand-painted Bavarian plate for David. Not a single item bore Mary's name.
I'm her granddaughter too, Aunt Barbara. Why am I being cut out?
Because I'm the executrix, and I've decided you never appreciated any of this.
But Mary couldn't forget the last words her grandmother had whispered to her at the funeral, pulling her close amid the crowd. Look after the green sideboard, Mary. Don't let anyone touch it. Promise me.
That's what she told herself. Grief, confusion. But now, with everything being stripped away, the words felt deliberate.
Are you even listening? This isn't a negotiation. You'll pack these up and you'll do it without the theatrics.
Mary swallowed the burn in her throat. The green sideboard waited in the corner, older than any of them, heavier than it looked.
Well, are you going to stand there like a statue or wrap the china? I don't have all afternoon.
Mary picked up a sheet of bubble wrap, her fingers moving on autopilot as she laid a teacup in the center.
Look after the green sideboard. Grandmother's voice echoed louder than Barbara's barking.
Put that Limoges platter in the second box, carefully. It's going to Claire.
The names burned in her mind, Claire, Michael, David, but hers was absent, as if she didn't belong to this family.
Barbara checked her watch, snapping a photo of the table with her phone as if to prove the division was final. By the time the evening light turned amber, Barbara's luxury SUV crunched out of the gravel driveway, its engine sound fading into the quiet of the old farm.
She's gone. And I'm here, wrapping their inheritance.
Each piece she wrapped held a story grandmother had told her, now folded in bubble wrap and labeled for someone else. The green sideboard waited in the corner, unchanged, its wood dark with age, and Mary couldn't shake the feeling that it was the only thing in the room not yet stripped away. As she lifted the last teacup, a chip on the rim, a memory surfaced, her grandmother's voice, the scent of chamomile.
That teacup had been hers. Not Claire's, not David's. The only piece in the whole set that had marked her place.
Suddenly she was 9 years old again, standing in this same room on a winter afternoon.
This sideboard is very special, Mary. It holds more than china. It holds what a family needs to remember.
What does it hold, Grandma? I don't see anything but dishes.
When you're old enough to understand, you'll know. Until then, promise me you'll always look after it.
She guided Mary's small hand to the bottom drawer, pressing her palm against the wood where the grain seemed to vanish. Mary remembered the feel of a seam, so fine it was almost invisible under her fingertips.
Grandmother hadn't been confused. She'd been deliberate. Tonight, when the house was dark, she would see for herself.
She set the teacup aside, not in a box. It would stay. The last light bled from the windows, and she waited. Midnight had long since settled over the old farmhouse, and thin moonlight sliced through the lace curtains of the guest bedroom, but sleep refused to come. The green sideboard burned in Mary's mind like a question she had been forbidden to voice.
This wasn't a sentimental request. Grandmother chose me for a reason. I have to find out why.
She threw off the quilt, pulled on her robe, and padded barefoot through the silent, shadow-heavy hallway. The dining room held a different chill, the sideboard's antique outline dark and watchful against the pale window light. She rapped her knuckle hard against the bottom of the lowest drawer. A hollow echo answered, not the solid thud of oak.
There's a hidden space. Grandmother didn't ask me to polish this thing. She wanted me to discover it.
Mary slid the drawer completely free and set it aside. A thin, mismatched wooden panel formed a false bottom, its seam barely visible.
A false bottom. That's what she was protecting all along.
She fetched a butter knife from the kitchen, knelt again, and slipped the blade beneath the panel's edge. Her breath caught, waiting. The panel lifted with a dry crack, releasing the scent of old wood and hidden years. Mary shone her flashlight into the void. In the narrow beam, a manila envelope lay flat against the dusty floor of the compartment.
There's something truly hidden here. Grandmother meant only for me to find it.
She reached in, fingers trembling, and pulled the envelope free. It was yellowed but intact. A thin layer of dust clung to her skin as she turned it over. The seal was unbroken. She carried it to the table, the flashlight casting long shadows. Her hands wouldn't steady. Carefully, she tore one end and slid out a folded stack of paper, the edges crisp. Elegant cursive covered the page, and the top line read, "Last Will and Testament of Eleanor Evans."
A second will. Grandmother changed her mind after the official one. But why hide it?
Mary sank onto a chair, the document heavy in her hands. She began to read, her pulse a drum in her ears. She unfolded it fully, the paper crackling in the silence. The flashlight beam wobbled across the elegant script. The first line cut through the quiet. "I, Eleanor Evans, being of sound mind, do hereby revoke all prior wills and codicils."
She revoked the official will. That changes everything. But why hide it all these years?
Further down, the bequests. I leave the farmhouse, the 22 acres of timber, and my brokerage account to my granddaughter, Mary Evans. Absolutely and in perpetuity.
Everything. The farmhouse, the land, the money. She gave me what my aunt was trying to steal.
She checked the date again. 3 years after the official will. Grandmother had planned this while she was still sharp, still angry. 2 witness signatures sat below. The notary seal was crisp. It looked legally sound, intentional.
This wasn't a last-minute scribble. Grandmother knew exactly what she was doing and who she was excluding.
Her legs gave way. She slid onto the floorboards, the will resting in her lap, the night pressing in around her.
What do I do with this? It could rip the family apart, or it could save everything she loved.
She stood, the will still in her hand, and walked to the window. The dark fields beyond offered no answers.
If I use this, Barbara will scream forgery. The cousins will call me a liar. But grandmother placed it here. She knew the China division would be nothing but theft.
She remembered those steady blue eyes, the way grandmother never wasted words on nonsense. This was not a mistake.
She predicted Barbara would do exactly this. The will is a sword she left for me to wield or bury.
Mary turned from the window, folded the document, and returned it to the envelope. Her fingers moved mechanically. In the guest room, she lifted the mattress and slid the envelope deep beneath. The lump was barely noticeable.
If I tell anyone now, it's chaos. I need to understand what this truly means first.
She climbed onto the creaking bed and stared at the ceiling. Hours passed, but her mind wouldn't stop racing. The sideboard downstairs seemed to echo in the silence.
What do I do, Grandma? How do I honor this without destroying everything?
Thin morning light finally crept through the curtains, and the sound of an engine jolted Mary upright. Barbara swung open the front door without a knock, her smirk already in place.
I've already called the realtor. He's coming by tomorrow to list the farmhouse. Everything is on schedule.
She's moving faster than I feared. If I don't stop this, there won't be anything left to protect.
Don't look so panicked. This is what's best for the family. We'll have it sold within a month.
I'll finish packing the china today. I need to run into town anyway for more tape and boxes.
Good. I need those boxes ready for pickup by Friday. And don't dawdle.
The front door clicked shut, and the engine roared away, leaving Mary alone in the heavy silence.
I can't wait another day. I have to talk to a lawyer before Barbara's realtor puts a sign in the yard. Grandmother gave me this for a reason. It's time to find out what it's truly worth.
She slipped the envelope from under the mattress and thumbed a number on her phone, a small-town attorney known for handling tangled estates. Within the hour, dust plumed behind her old sedan as she drove away from the farmhouse, the envelope hidden under the passenger seat. The law office on Cherry Street was a plain brick building with an American flag. Inside, the air smelled of old paper and lemon polish. She was shown into a cluttered office where a silver-haired man studied the document through reading glasses, his expression unreadable. He turned to the back page, ran a finger over the notary seal, and said it appeared properly executed, likely to supersede the prior filing.
Likely supersede. That meant it could wipe out Barbara's entire distribution. The farmhouse, the land, everything.
He asked about her witnessing it. She hadn't, but the named witnesses gave the document weight.
If I don't file this now, Barbara's realtor will have a sign in the yard by tomorrow. There's no more time for hesitation.
She signed the forms to open probate, the pens scratching louder than any argument she'd ever had with her aunt. When she stepped back into the afternoon light, the envelope was copied, stamped, and officially in the system. There was no taking it back. Dusk had barely settled over the farmhouse when the front door slammed open, and Barbara stormed into the dining room, a printout clenched in her shaking fist.
You little schemer! Filing a fake will behind my back while I'm trying to settle this estate honorably?
It's not fake, Aunt Barbara. Grandmother left it for me, hidden in the sideboard. She wanted me to have the farmhouse and the land.
Hidden in the sideboard? That's the most ridiculous, desperate story I've ever heard. You forged it to steal what belongs to my children.
The notary seal is real. The witnesses are real. The court will confirm it, and you know it.
You think a piece of paper from a dusty drawer will stand against me? I am the executrix of this estate.
Her phone buzzed 3 times in rapid succession, angry texts from the cousins, all written in capital letters.
Claire, Michael, David. They've all turned against me, but Grandmother warned me this would happen. She prepared me for it.
You've made your choice, Mary. Now the whole family knows exactly what you are.
The dining room crackled with a fury that hadn't been there since her grandmother's voice filled the house. Mary knew she could not step back now. Mary retreated to the guest room, shutting the door against the echo of Barbara's fury. Her phone lit up, call after call from cousins who had already chosen sides. Claire's voice came first, trembling not with grief but with accusation. After everything this family gave you, you pull something like this?
They think I'm stealing, but Grandmother gave this to me because she knew Barbara would never share.
Then Michael's message, all caps, as if shouting through the screen, "You're dead to US. Hope the money was worth it."
It's not about money. It's about the promise I made to a woman who knew her own children couldn't be trusted with what she'd built.
She pulled a dusty photo album from the nightstand drawer, its spine cracked from years of being opened only by her grandmother.
There I am, 9 years old, in the garden, her hand on my shoulder. She told me then that this farmhouse would always be my home.
A tear slipped down her cheek, but she caught it with the back of her hand before it could darken the locket.
I'm doing what you asked, Grandma. It's messy, it's ugly, but I won't let your last wish be buried by Barbara's greed.
The phone continued to flash. She silenced it and stared at the ceiling, no longer doubting what had to be done. At a corner booth in the town's only cafe, Mary's attorney spread photocopies across the Formica table and gave her the unvarnished math. He explained that a notary seal alone wouldn't carry the day. The court would need testimony from the witnesses who had signed alongside Eleanor Evans. Then he pointed to a name on the copy. The first witness died 2 years ago. The second is still alive, a man named Harold in his late 80s.
Harold. Grandmother mentioned him once. He'd come to the farmhouse to fix the porch rail and stayed for tea.
The attorney had already dispatched a private investigator. For 3 days, the trail went cold. Then a call came. Harold had been located in a nursing home 2 counties over. He was frail but lucid.
If he remembers. If he's willing to testify, the whole case could hinge on a fading memory.
The investigator reported that Harold still spoke warmly of Eleanor, how she'd never cheated anyone in her life. But Harold was nearly 90. A deposition would need to be taken quickly, before his memory or health declined further. Mary felt a flicker of hope, fragile as a match in a drafty room. For the first time, the odds began to feel real. In a small conference room of the nursing home, a court reporter set up her machine, and the elderly man raised a trembling hand to take the oath. He stated his name, Harold, and confirmed that Eleanor Evans had called him over on a fall afternoon to witness a document. He recalled her exact words, "Harold, I need an honest man to watch me sign this. My family won't like what it says." He identified his own signature on the will, unwavering despite the years. Barbara's attorney leaned forward and asked if he could be certain, given his age, that he was remembering clearly. Harold fixed the lawyer with a steady look and said, "I remember the tea she served that day. It was chamomile. I remember her sharp blue eyes. I am certain.
Chamomile. The same tea grandmother gave me. His memory is a mirror of mine.
The deposition transcript was signed and sealed. Barbara's legal team had nothing left to attack but the ink on the page.
We have a real chance now. Harold's words could be the difference.
Mary exhaled slowly, the tight knot in her chest loosening just enough for her to walk outside and breathe the afternoon air. The probate courtroom was heavy with oak and old wool, the air thick as a held breath. Mary walked to the witness stand and raised her hand to testify.
I found the will inside a false bottom drawer in my grandmother's green sideboard, exactly where she told me to look before she died.
Her voice held, but her knuckles whitened on the rail as Barbara's attorney rose for cross-examination. The attorney's voice cut across the room. If this will was so sacred, why did you wait until after the china was divided to reveal it?
Because my grandmother told me to look after the sideboard. I was grieving. I didn't understand what she meant until I was alone with her things.
Then Barbara took the stand. She smoothed her navy blazer and fixed Mary with a glare that could etch glass.
My mother was vulnerable in her final years. Mary manipulated her into signing something she didn't understand. This will is a disgrace.
A courtroom sketch artist captured the moment. Barbara's hand raised, Mary's back rigid, the judge's face unreadable. The judge, a stoic woman with reading glasses, finally spoke. I have heard testimony from both sides. I will review the evidence and render my decision. The gavel fell with a soft thud. Not a verdict, only a pause. Mary and Barbara locked eyes across the aisle, neither blinking. 3 days later, the judge reconvened the courtroom. She adjusted her reading glasses and began to read from the bench. The second will, handwritten and witnessed, was the last true expression of Eleanor Evans's wishes. This court admits it to probate and revokes all prior instruments.
I won. But the word felt hollow, like a bell struck over an empty field.
Across the aisle, Barbara's face drained of color. Her attorney gripped her forearm as if she might collapse. The judge continued, Mary Evans is the sole inheritor. The previous executrix shall return all distributed items within 30 days.
Every plate, every teacup, every piece of grandmother's china would come back to me, and I had no idea what to do with any of it.
Barbara stood abruptly, the chair screeching on the wood floor. Her whisper cut through the silence. This isn't over. The gavel struck the sound block once more, a crack that sealed the ruling and seemed to echo through the empty gallery. Mary walked numbly out of the courtroom, her attorney's congratulations a distant hum. The victory felt more like a weight than a release.
Grandmother, you gave me justice. But justice came wrapped in a family's ruins. How do I carry both?
Mary drove the familiar gravel road alone, the court order on the passenger seat. She turned the key in the farmhouse lock and stepped inside. The rooms felt larger now, hollowed out by tension. Every floorboard seemed to echo grandmother's absence.
I'm the owner now. But I feel more like the last leaf on a split tree, still clinging.
In the study, she pushed aside an old painting and opened a wall safe that only she and grandmother knew about. The will slid in beside a photograph. By the end of the week, the first knock came. A cousin stood on the porch with a cardboard box, her face hard as the porcelain inside.
I opened the lid. The tags were still on. Claire, Michael, David. The division that cut me out now lay in a box at my feet.
More returned items arrived in silence, a gravy boat, a platter, the hand-painted set, each one a message of reluctant compliance. When she unwrapped the chipped teacup she and grandmother had used, the scent of chamomile seemed to rise from the tissue paper.
This one? This remembers her. But the rest, I don't know if I can keep them without keeping the fight alive.
She stacked the boxes in the corner beside the green sideboard, still undecided. The sideboard held no answers, only the hollow space where the truth had waited. Mary lifted the chipped teacup from the table, the one she and grandmother had always used. Her thumb found the familiar nick on the rim.
This one stays. The rest belongs to a fight I don't want to keep feeding.
She gathered the returned china piece by piece, wrapping them in the same bubble wrap she had used when Barbara ordered her to pack them for the cousins. At the kitchen table, she smoothed a sheet of notepaper and began to write, her pen moving without hesitation. The letter read, "Dear Aunt Barbara, the china is yours. I kept only what grandmother intended for me. It was never about possessions. It was about the promise I made to her." She sealed the boxes with clear tape and wrote Barbara's name boldly on each, then carried them to the porch. The boxes sat on the porch, labeled and ready, the afternoon light catching the edges of the tape. At the post office, she slid the boxes across the counter and watched the clerk affix the shipping labels. There was no taking it back.
I've done what grandmother would have wanted. Not revenge, but release. And maybe someday Barbara will understand.
She drove back to the farmhouse as the sun dipped, the teacup resting on the passenger seat beside her. The gravel crunched beneath the tires like a quiet welcome. 3 days later, a delivery truck stopped outside Barbara's split level on Oak Street. The boxes sat on her doorstep like a returned verdict. She used a box cutter to slice the tape open. Bubble wrap parted to reveal the Limoges platter, the Bavarian plate, every piece she had once tagged.
Why would Mary send them back after everything after the court? Why?
Then her fingers touched paper. The letter, folded neatly, with Mary's handwriting. She read the words again. Slowly, the ink unsteady, but the message devastating.
She thinks this is a gift? No, it's worse. She's letting go of the fight, and that means she's already won.
Barbara's hand trembled. The paper quivered in the afternoon light that slanted through her window.
This isn't revenge. This is release. She let me keep what I wanted, and now I'm holding nothing.
She looked at the china spread across her floor, each piece a trophy of a war she'd already lost. She sank into a chair, the letter still clutched in her hand, and for the first time since her mother's funeral, she didn't reach for the phone to argue. The silence settled around her like a curtain. The farmhouse porch glowed amber as the last sun melted into the timberline. Mary sat alone, the chipped teacup cupped in both hands.
I kept my promise, Grandma. The sideboard is safe, and so am I.
She rose, the screen door creaking behind her, and crossed the dining room to the green sideboard. She pulled the bottom drawer open, the same drawer that once hid the truth. Now it would hold a different treasure. She set the teacup inside, the chip facing out like a signature.
I looked after it, just like you asked.
The drawer slid shut with a soft, solid thud, not hollow this time, but full. Outside, the sun bled crimson through the windows, painting the old wood gold. Mary stood in the quiet, and for the first time in months, she breathed without weight. The sideboard held its secret no longer. All that remained was the teacup and the promise that had brought her home. In the quiet of the farmhouse, the green sideboard stood as it always had, silent, unassuming, its secret now a memory.
It wasn't the china that mattered. It was the truth she hid, trusting I'd find it when the time was right.
The drawer that once held a hollow echo now held her grandmother's legacy, compressed into a single chipped cup.
Barbara will never know what it feels like to be chosen by a woman who saw through greed.
But Mary would never need to explain. The sideboard had spoken, and the court had listened. The real will hadn't just granted land or money. It had revealed a grandmother's silent battle against her own daughter's entitlement.
She fought for me before I even knew there was a war.
And now, in the golden hour of a resolved life, Mary understood that inheritance isn't about what you get. It's about what you prove you'll protect. The hidden drawer held more than a will. It held the answer to a question Mary had asked since childhood: who truly belonged to this house? And the answer, sealed in dust and chamomile-scented memory, was finally, peacefully hers. Morning light spilled into the farmhouse kitchen, clean and unhurried. The coffee perked, and for once, no phone rang. Mary stood in the doorway, holding her teacup, the chipped one, and looked at the green sideboard across the dining room.
No one will move that sideboard. It's part of the house now, just like her.
She traced the brass handle with her finger, a small ritual she had adopted. The wood felt warm.
Aunt Barbara might never forgive me, but I've already forgiven her. That's the only path forward.
She pushed open the screen door and stepped onto the porch where her grandmother had once rocked. The swing creaked gently. She cradled the teacup and watched the mist lift from the fields.
This is home. Not because a piece of paper says so, but because I stayed when everyone else tried to leave.
High above, a hawk circled the timberline, the same 22 acres now written under her name. Mary took a sip of chamomile, still faintly scented from the old tin, and let the day unfold. The farmhouse waited, patient as ever. When the teacup was empty, Mary rose from the swing and carried it inside, her steps unhurried. In the dining room, she paused before the green sideboard. The wood gleamed in the slanted light, no longer a barrier but a keeper.
The secret is out, but the drawer is no longer hollow. It holds what we loved.
She closed the drawer with a soft, familiar sound. The chip on the teacup faced out, a small imperfection that meant everything. Outside, the afternoon sun painted the farmhouse gold, the 22 acres stretching quiet and whole under a pale sky. Inside, the kitchen held the faint scent of coffee and the soft ticking of the old wall clock. Mary passed through the rooms, her hand brushing the doorframes as if learning the house anew.
This was always meant to be mine. Not just the land, but the trust that came with it.
In the corner, the green sideboard stood unchanged, yet somehow more present than ever, a silent witness to a promise kept. The hidden drawer held no more secrets, only a teacup, a memory, and the enduring weight of being chosen.